And especially for AI and technologies like blockchain, they're built around a continuous feed of new information. So where people are being sort of getting misinformation about being disenfranchised from their jobs or AI taking away, at least currently right now, that's not where it is. It's actually the opposite. If you're, in the case of the media side, if you're building algorithms, you have to feed those algorithms with a continual amount of information. And to Jason's point, the best information is the information that comes out of people. So part of doing Deep Media Day was to explain to people, you actually have a much more active role, and it's not a role where somebody is passive. You're required for this AI to be better at what it does.
On this week's episode of Establish Your Empire, I host Jason, Jepson, and Bart Rollert. Jason and Bart were on the show to promote their Deep Media Day event that was during South by Southwest on St. Patrick's Day, but was unfortunately canceled due to the coronavirus. And on this episode, we talk about emerging technologies like AI and visual media applications, deep learning, interactive advertising, and much more.
You're listening to the Establishing Your Empire show, a podcast that inspires entrepreneurs, creatives, and future business owners to pursue their passions, grow their organizations, and build their empire. My name is Daran Herrman, and creatively, I'm best known for my photography. But business-wise, my claim to fame is growing a company from $15K per month in online sales to breaking the $1 million a month barrier. And I'm sitting down with interesting people to talk about their process, the lessons they've learned, and how they have established their empires.
All right, Jason and Bart here. This is my first podcast with like two guests on the other side of the table, which will be very exciting. So why don't you guys tell me why you're here and what you guys do real quick?
Sure. I mean, I have multiple jobs. Got a podcast talking during movies. I'm head of brand and comms for a financial services firm in Southern California. And then I'm partner at Deep Media Technology and working with Bart for the last year to build Deep Media Day, which is a day to really enhance and highlight what's happening in AI, blockchain, virtual reality, and where people think they're disparate and apart. We're taking a step back and we're connecting the dots and then showing them how they're connected. I'm like, oh, now I get it. And that's been the goal of what we've been putting on.
And this is March 17th, correct?
March 17th,
yeah,
St.
so
Patrick's
this is coming
Day.
up. Oh, yeah, boy. Yeah. So go ahead and give us more overview of Deep Media Day, because I want to start with that for sure.
So Deep Media Day came about when Jason and I were at an event last year at South by, and Jason had been working with a blockchain company. And I was... in that time, my company was being acquired by another company that was going public in October, and it was an area that focused on AI for image, video, and 3D. And we sat down and we started discussing how this area is really trending and growing. Video is becoming the training element, the education element. It's, I think, something like 75 hours every 30 seconds is uploaded to YouTube, things like that. And that there was a lot going on that people were not really aware of, and we should pull everyone together because there's new job positions that are going to be developed because of this. And also, we really saw within other conferences, they weren't really focused on what's applied. So for us, Deep Media Day is about companies that have actually put stuff out to the market, whether it's a startup or a mid-size or larger company. So we didn't really do a whole lot of marketing, and we have thousands of people who are already registered. So
and is one of the places, like, is AI the main forefront of the day? Is it VR? Is it like or is it all kind of a shared day?
It's a shared day, and it's meant to show overlaps between what's going on. So, for instance, in retail, companies like Wayfair are digitizing and creating 3D models out of their furniture and things like that. It's really talking about how do you stand up the information behind these assets, because as you know, most computer systems have no understanding of what image, video, or 3D are on the system. Whereas text is easy to index, which is what Google does with HTML. Indexes the internet over text. Image, video, and 3D data is usually completely absent. So it's an area to get people involved in it, but also to say, oh, we can use this 3D data in a different way using AI, or we can track copyright infringement via blockchain with music and video, which is a company called PEX coming out of LA. They're going to show us their machine learning that uses that. And they've indexed billions and billions of videos and music tracks. So,
I mean, that's so exciting. So who's kind of your ideal, I wouldn't call it a customer, but person to go to the event, right?
Well, we stood up this event. It's a free public event. There was no badge required or anything. And we really just wanted to put it out there, to be quite honest, and not try to target any particular segment, let the segment really find its own home with us. So we didn't, I'm not a big believer in personas per se. I think if you're in AI, there's bias in AI. It's just the way it is right now. And we just wanted to let the market show up for us. And it's really open to startups. It's open to any kind of entrepreneur. But I think it was really open to people who were willing to connect dots. And we've seen that quite a bit. In fact, the people who've shown up are helping other people become accustomed to these technologies. And that's really what it was about.
So what about someone I would be totally fine coming in person, and I probably will, depending on how things are at March 17th. Mm-hmm. But what if I didn't want to come in person? Do you guys have any strategies for that?
Oh, before South by was canceled, we sat down and we had our ABC. A is packed bar, podcast set up, line down the street. We're excited. B was, we're going to limit this and we're going to have an area for our VIPs, and then other people after those VIPs, please come in. And then it was, but what about all digital? And you come into you instantly see some issues, right? Like, all right, how do I record? How do I film? And how do I distribute? And unfortunately, a lot of people get frozen, right? Because they're like, oh man, well, I don't have those capabilities, or I have a podcast setup. I don't have filming.
Right.
Well, the beautiful thing about Austin, the beautiful thing about the tech community, the beautiful thing about entrepreneurs is you ask. Like, it's amazing. Entrepreneurs have no problem going to a VC and saying, I need $20 million, but they won't go to someone and say, hey, can you film this for free? Because it's such a negative connotation. And I completely understand. You should get paid for what you do. In a time like this, it's a pivot. It's not a change, but it's a pivot. And that pivot is, I get where you're coming from. Here's a list of our registered attendees. Look at the names behind them. Vista Equity, Google, Apple, Wayfair, Walmart. All of these Fortune 100 companies are right here, and they're all on our list now, and they're going to get this podcast. So what, do you want to still talk? And they're like, absolutely. Now, some can't fly in because of travel restrictions. And so it's like video. Perfect. We'll do video. Well, as soon as you start working with people, now we've got someone who comes in there, hey, can we shoot it in VR? Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Please. That'd be great. And then another person, destination show, where they travel all over the world to do 5-minute segments. Like, this guy will fly to Thailand for a week and shoot a 5-minute segment. And I was like, we're going to work on your time management, but this is it's funny. It's just a comedy show. Destination shows coming in to shoot very serious blockchain, AI, VR stuff for us. He's like, can you just please mention my show once? I was like, yeah, this is, are you kidding me? Dive Bar comes to us. Like, you know what? We understand what's going on. We're not charging you for the venue.
Wow.
Please use it. Have fun. And what it shows is community, right? And obviously you don't do this everywhere and all the time, but in situations where it's appropriate and you have leverage, right? I mean, we have an active database now of over 3,000 people who are like, I can't make it, but also we want the content. And probably most importantly, as you know, with this podcast is you don't dump it on them all at once. The South by, the hard part about it is you're there. It's 10 days, 12 days. You're running around, you're grabbing cards, you're shaking hands. And then what happens? Well, it fizzles.
Yeah.
And Bart and I were talking about that. And I said, wait, what if we did a podcast? I don't care if we only record 10, but then we have others in line down the road and we release them. And it's like, all right, well, who's going to distribute? Well, all of a sudden, my buddy calls me. He's like, hey, I got this company, and they'll give you their premium platform for free and one button pushed to everything: video, audio. It's almost like SoundCloud, but SoundCloud on steroids. And so we reach out to him. He's like, yes, absolutely. Let's do this. And now you can absorb the information at your pace. You can now think about questions you want to ask. And because of blockchain and because of the way we've set this day up and the way we're delivering the information, now you can connect the dots, or we can help you connect the dots, and you can engage. Well, if you're in a packed room, raise your hand. See how far that question gets you, right? And then I run the mic over to you, and I'm like, it's not perfect. I mean, we were sharing stories about great South by events and the randomness that happens in music and fun and meeting people. It's a pivot. It's not a change. And this pivot is good for technology. It's good for people to understand where they can grow, where they can stretch, what they need to do differently. And it's a pivot that allows them to shine. And it allows a multitude of people to shine in a time when everyone else is kind of burying their heads and saying, oh man, they're frozen.
Yeah, and the way I see it is like this coronavirus kind of basically took the game board that we're all playing, right, and just flipped it up, right? And we have a couple options here.
Yeah.
Do we just leave it on the ground and walk over it basically, or forget about it, walk away? Or does some people pick up some pieces, right? Mm-hmm. And I feel like there's this community here, and I'm kind of doing a rush of podcasts here, like basically every day, or like I think I had 1 day break here in the last 5-6 days, which is not common for me. I usually do like one a week, maybe two, because there is a lot of people picking up the pieces, trying to do something. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of attention now, which usually South by it's the opposite. It's too much noise, and now there's a lot of noise about the virus, but not so much about South by events and all that. So I think there's actually an opportunity for a lot of people to hear your message that might have skipped you over because there's so much going on. So let's talk a little bit more about Deep Media Day before and not like we're going to fully move on, but so it's at Dive Bar, right?
Yep.
And where's Dive Bar?
Dive Bar and Lounge, 1703 Guadalupe. They're great. I can't say enough nice things about them, because anything we ask, they're like, yeah, we got that. Don't worry about it. We're doing a secret show that night. There's an artist coming into town.
Well, it's not so secret now.
Not so secret now. He wants to perform. And I said, Dive, is that okay with you guys? And they're like, sure. I'm like, just cash bar. You guys, I want to help you guys make some money.
Yeah, everybody, you have to.
Yeah, right. In the industry, I have other friends down at Kung Fu. So I reach out to our artist manager, and I said, hey, would he like to perform somewhere else, or is just Dive Bar and done? He's doing it also, by the way, he's doing it gratis.
Yeah. So I just played volleyball yesterday with Nick Adams, a big friends of him. Yeah. So
dude, I play basketball with Nick all the time.
Oh yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So I reached out to Nick and his GM Gio, and I said, hey, do you want me to bring another artist in? And they're like, yeah. I was like, all right, he can work with your DJ. You got the whole setup. We'll get it done. And I mean, I've worked with Kung Fu for 6 years on stuff. I've snuck Ludacris into their bar to perform, Black Eyed Peas, Craig Wayne Boyd, who won The Voice, Callie Tucker, Tanya Tucker's niece. And so we get it, so they're just like green light. But it's fun because I know that staff and those people, I can't solve the problem for everybody, but I can help them. And it does help that I know Nick, and I know Gio. And I'm too old to go into Kung Fu. I walk into Kung Fu and
every once in a while.
Yeah. And someone's like, hey, Tammy, your dad's here. Hide. I'm like, hey, whoa, easy.
Yeah. Well, at least you're not saying, it's too loud.
No, it's just, I'm old. And, and it's great, but you get to go in and do that. And to support, it's one thing when you're given support, and we've been given a lot of support. You want to share that as much as possible.
Plus, it's also fun. At the end of the day, you are creating some actions that are helping other people, but it also sounds like a lot of fun things to do. And the merger of that's like the best thing, right? When you can enjoy what you're doing, but also give some stuff back. I mean, if you're in the service industry, I feel for you big time.
Tough. And we're shooting some other stuff. We're doing a campaign called When You Get Here. It blows my mind. And other people have probably said this, but before Facebook, there was MySpace. Before MySpace, there's Friendster. Technology gave us a platform to connect without press and flesh, without having to meet face to face. Those foundations are out there. And the Facebooks and Googles of the world were the first to step back and say, we're not going to attend, versus saying, hey, we have these great virtual platforms that have been around forever, and we want you to leverage them. And here's how. And instead, they just step back and they're like, well, it's out there. Who cares? Small businesses are hurting. Yelp is the king of small businesses and garnering attention for them, good or bad. Where are you, Yelp, in putting video content up to highlight and show these restaurants, West 6 or anywhere else? So we'll do it. So you know what? I'll grab people again, and we're grabbing a VR company, and we've got the Destination Show guys. We're going to go around and we're going to just shoot little clips. Hey, and it's when you get here. I know you can't come for South by, but when you get here, swing by Dive. Hey, you want some of the best food in a dirty bar? Go to Lavaca and check out those tacos.
Oh, man.
So good.
Yeah.
Now I'm hungry.
Yeah, I know, right?
But it's like, do you want great food? Do you like diner food? 24 Diner, Irene's, whatever it is. And, some people will be like, hey, you forgot our place. I can't do it all.
Yeah, right.
But I want to do as much as I can to support the people that are back in that kitchen that work. I've worked in a kitchen. I've waited tables. I've bartended. It's hard work. And now they're hurting. And yeah, I don't have unlimited resources to go run around and throw money, but I do have friends, and we do have a little bit of influence in what we can do to support them and push that message out. So, hey, when you get here, here's some places to check out.
For sure. And what is interesting about the restaurants, which I'm happy that it's this way right now. So we live right by the Mahdi's here on Lake Austin Boulevard. It's packed every night. So then, somebody might not go to an event, but then they'll go to a restaurant that's packed, which I don't mean that in a negative way, because I was just there like 2 nights ago, which I try to avoid because I'm there way too often. But, so let's back up. So why did you guys come up with Deep Media Day? How did this start? I know you kind of alluded to it before, but I want like maybe the longer version. Like how did even the idea happen?
Well, the longer version, when Jason and I first met, I was telling him about this company that I was working with for the last 4 years, and that the market 4 years ago with investors was not there. In other words, we were trying to explain to investors how AI and media works, how blockchain and media works. And we spend most of our time educating investors instead of getting funded.
Right. You're like, you have to like sell 3 times, right? You got to sell you this way on the technology. You got to sell yourself. Sell the company, it's tough.
So, absolutely. And also there weren't a lot of companies out there to point to in the market to say, well, we're like X, Y, or Z. So, about around this time last year, we started to see some traction in the market. And this one particular company, we were going to go live in London, and went over there to raise some money, expecting if we'd had a really good week, may raise $5 million, end up raising $15 million in 3 days. So we saw the market now catch up, and it is a little bit like that with startups and technology. It's feast or famine, right? You go from all of a sudden the desert to all of a sudden the oasis. And we thought it was a timing issue, that we needed to package this and curate this community within about 6 months to really not get ahead of it, but to just be able to show people what's now emerging. Because at the time, we had our own network trying to stand up our company, and we knew a lot of people around the world. We were a virtual company. We had people in Poland, Ukraine, London, Paris, US, LA, Seattle, Austin, everywhere. And we just thought it was a timing issue. So South by was perfect to stand it up for. But we really didn't get going until November. So,
I mean, there's a lot of discussion and planning for almost a year, and talking with VCs and talking with other technology people and sitting down. I mean, we were going to do an event in LA, and unfortunately, my friend has this beautiful home on top of Mulholland, and she's like, "Here, you can have my house." Her friend passed away of cancer. At that, we pulled back. We were out in LA. We still kept our meetings. We still ran around. And as we talked with more people and they saw it, they're like, okay, I get it. Now what can we do with you? I mean, it's never been, I get it, thanks. Yesterday we had a conversation with this VR company, and they have all these things they want to do. They want to do a VR podcast, and and so Bart's talking to him about what that means in VR and how you put it in blockchain and the value of it. And this guy wasn't like, okay, thanks. That's very interesting. Thanks for your time. That's what I meant. Yep. That's what I've been trying to say. How do you do it? And it's not that we do it as much as we have the technology back behind us, but we also have the dot connecting ability to look at disparate things where people are like, yeah, well, he's over there, I'm over here, who cares? And we go, no, this is why you two should talk. And this is exactly what you should talk about. And when you do that, this result's going to come out. And working on that and understanding that, and really working hard to get in front of companies instead of working hard to get in front of VCs. I'd rather go in, if a VC wants to come talk to us, great, you can, because we have LOIs and we've got partners, and we've got partners all around the world, and now we have influence, and now we have weight to share and show and move technology. I would tell startups, you might want to go down that road a little bit more before you just say, I've got an idea, or I've got this, fence post over here, and that's my bare bones technology to try to stand it up. Please give me money. The mode's changed a little bit. And if the mode's changed, that's fine. Then go out and get your LOIs and go out and get your partners and work with them and make sure you can. I think that's the other thing that people forget is that you get excited about an idea or you build part of a technology and you're like, we're the dot connector to all of this. And someone goes, great. But do you like working with him?
Right.
Do you like working with her? Does she like working with you?
For a long time.
So instead, it's like, go out and find your partners. Make sure you guys work together. Make sure everything plugs in together right. I mean, private equity firms, random turn here, but private equity firms buy SaaS companies, bundle them up, throw them together, put them in a different spot. How many of those are really successful? Because you're not seeing how people work together. You've got a CTO goes, a couple APIs, we'll plug this in. We're going to have these 3 SaaS companies go into one. We're going to cut overhead, blah, blah, blah. Here we go. We're on a project to be profitable in 3 years with revenue already coming in from all 3 companies. Great. But how do they work together? And how many really successfully work together versus you're forcing something together? And we took a step back and said, why force something? Why not lay something out to what Bart said earlier? Lay it out, let people see it, let the community come to it, and then let's connect that community together. And Deep Media Day is a big part of that. But it's funny. Everyone's like, "Oh, you put this together. This is great." And there's literally a couple of emails was sent out to get thousands of people interested, which shows us appetite, which is that's another arrow in the quiver. And now you're seeing momentum and movement forward. Now you've got partners that you want to work with. Now you've got everything in place to when a VC is interested, you want to go talk to VCs. You're not coming in and then going, and then we're going to work on this. Oh, and this is going to cost more money because it's over here. And no, you guys have figured this out already. Good. And that was the goal. But that took a year, and it looks like it took a week. Right?
I mean, it seems like that. Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of steps in there. So I got a couple questions for that. Yeah, so one, I love the name. So how did you guys come up with the name?
That's all Bart.
So deep media is kind of a combination of deep learning, which is an AI technique applied to media. In our case, is more visual and audio focused rather than text based. And we needed a way of taking this rather confusing topic that we learned years ago, trying to explain it to VCs, and come up with a simple way of describing it. So. There wasn't a lot online, and we put a few things together, and I thought this is probably the easiest way to remember it. So we just stood it up. Part of what we do is we're very startup oriented. We're connected in with a lot of incubators and accelerators, and we've learned from startups that the best thing to do is just put it out there and see what happens. You don't have to wait for a focus group or marketing group to, perfect it for you, right? Just put it out there.
I think one thing with a name too is it's almost just like you got to love it yourself because you're the one that's going to be pushing this.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't like it yourself, it's going to take a lot of wind out of your sails anyway. And I mean, any name can work. Google's massive. What kind of name was that? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's like some large number, but and then, so when you went and got funding, was that something where you talked to a ton of people to get that 15 million, or did you have already kind of a Rolodex of people to go meet? And if you did talk to a lot of people, was it like 30 to get one investor? Like, what was your success there?
It was a little bit different. It actually took much longer than expected. It was, we're supposed to be, 3 or 5 months ago public. It took almost 18 months. It took several years of connecting the right people. So it was not a fast process at all. In fact, overall, I think it was just over 3 years for the IPO to happen. And we were partnered with another company on it. So I think those things, it's true. You just have to triple the time and triple your budget probably to do it successfully.
Yeah, I think it's important to know because I think people all get stuck in the mud a little bit and get frustrated. But to hear that it just does take a little bit longer.
We got to remember too, PayPal. Time Magazine called it one of the worst technologies created when it first came out.
Wow, I did not know that. That's amazing.
And they stuck with it, right? They stuck with it. They moved forward. They marched on. They kept their vision and they knew what was coming. They were, of course, way ahead of their time, but they did it. And that's a resounding message. It should be a resounding message to anyone, but especially to entrepreneurs, of someone's going to tell you no. In fact, a lot of people are going to tell you no. Some people are going to call you crazy. Some people aren't going to understand, right? And you take a minute and figure out who's not understanding. Like, we're not taking Deep Media Day to the DMV because it's not mass consumer right now. If you're trying to sell water, some new water, you probably want to cruise down to make sure people understand it. But for us, it was much more focused on certain groups and certain people. And man, you get your focus, make sure your message right. If your group doesn't understand you, yeah, go back and retool. But understand, you can go back and retool. It's not the end all be all.
Right. And so what would success look like after this? And obviously South by being canceled, that's probably got to be restructured. But let's say it's the, March 18th, 19th, you guys chat. Like, what's that look like to you guys?
Part of this too is built on the premise of like an Orson Welles type production. I watched his biography of Orson Welles, and he talked about how he put his movies together, which was go out and grab the people you want there, bring them all in, and then sort of get them in a room, get the conversation going, but then step away. And he said that's where all the magic in his movies happened. He never planned them. He never tried to coerce people into it. He just put them in a room and let them go. And that's really what we've done. We've helped people with VCs. We've helped people look for new jobs. We've connected people up with companies hiring people. And that's not really as random as it is, because our focus, I wouldn't call it a niche, but it is very infrastructure based. We're setting up a premise for people to know where the jobs are going to be in 5 years, or probably maybe 5 months even. And for us, that stepping back and watching that magic happen, we don't know necessarily how it's going to turn out, but we know already going into it that we're going to step back and see a lot of really neat things that were never planned.
I think what's great about that answer is it wasn't like, okay, well, we need to have 5,000 people signed up for this or this type of revenue or whatever it is. It's all about, I think your kind of North Star, or what you're about, is connecting people, relationships, getting people excited about this technology or this new space, right? It reminds me of the, I can't think of it now. Back in the day, they used to have the World's Fairs. That's what it was. So, and I've always thought of South by as that a little bit, in a different way, of course. It's almost like the world coming to us. And that's why I always loved about it. But this one here is, I think technology is going in the direction that you guys are talking about. Whether, I don't know the timeline, it might be already here, some of it, and some might be 15 years out, right? But so I assume that no matter what, are you guys thinking next year as well? Is this something that you want to do all the time, or is this going to be multiple times a year? Or
we'd probably do more than one day, just from the demand this year. We thought about a day with a couple hundred people, but we probably have 3 days worth of content at this point. So if we do it, I think it would be at least a 2-day event.
A 2-day event, and it's just something that when people have already reached out, hey, can you do this in LA? Can you do this in New York? And LA is a little easier for me. Once again, it's relationships, right? You want to work with the people you have relationships with and do that. So, will we do it somewhere else? Absolutely. It would just have to make sense for us to do it, obviously, financially and everything else. We're very blessed with what we've been able to accomplish with funding being taken away, money being taken away, and people stepping up. So then it's the evolution of this is you look at the podcast and the releases and other things. And you're like, all right, well, let's look at sponsors and what that looks like and what sponsorship looks like. And then also let's look at what deeper partnerships look like and where we can really go together. I got a call the other day from a financial services. All they do is put on financial services events. They're canceling all of them. I was supposed to speak at some of them. They're canceled. Okay. Well, is there a digital option? I lightly say yes. My phone blows up right as soon as the conference calls in. Like, well, so can you hook us up? Like, who do we need to talk to? We need this now. I send an email. Within seconds, they have replied back. Like, we need a conference call on this day, this day, or this day. We need this right now. How can you help? And it's like, well, do you want VR? What do you want? They're like, no, we need everything. We are a sponge. We need it all, because we realize now We are so far behind. We don't have any of this content on a podcast. We don't have any of this content on YouTube. We're sitting ducks because it was all face to face, and that's all we cared about. And big events, small events, companies that do events, they really should look at South by and look at what the entrepreneurs are doing here to see solutions, real world solutions that are happening. If you want to see it come out in the wash, go right ahead. But I'll tell you what, Joe Rogan does a pretty good job understanding the power of a podcast.
Yeah.
Right? And video, audio, everything. So for people to be shocked or people to be perplexed about what to do, I'm like, do you guys listen? Yeah, it's got to be difficult, right? I'm like, no, it's a soundboard, a computer, and a microphone. It's 2 minutes to set up.
I mean, now it's crazy. I mean, your phone, you could be live to as many people as you want to be.
Yeah.
That's unreal, because that used to take a massive amount of equipment, and you had to have the distro network of ABC or somebody to actually give it, let you be on air. And now you could literally hit record. Now, is that the quality you want? Maybe, maybe not. But like it's a start.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of low cost solutions out there that's really nice. Mm-hmm. So you do have a podcast yourself, your own personal podcast. Can you tell us what that is and what you guys do?
Yeah, it really is for my enjoyment. I've got a couple of sponsors, but it's only in trade. And what I do is I just want to promote them. So it's called Talking During Movies. I take a movie, it plays quietly in the background so you can't hear it.
Oh, so you're actually talking during the movie.
Yeah.
So you're that guy.
Yeah. And I use key moments and quotes from the film to drive a 2-hour conversation. And then like this group that I work with, Colorblind Design, they have these ammo cans and he's turned them into 6-pack tactical carriers. So it holds a 6-pack of beer, it's got magnetic paint, you pop the bottle open and the lid doesn't fall on the ground, it sticks to the side. They're very cool. And he's like, hey, we were talking. And he's like, man, I don't have a budget. I don't want your money. I'm going to give you a guest list. You decide. And then you can mail them one of your carriers. He was like, what? I was like, yeah, I'll ask them if they like beer. If they do, I'll introduce, or you mail them to me and I'll give them to them during the podcast. And I did it. I'm a part with a group that does NFL alumni events, MLS events, NBA. And I took one there and gave it to an NFL player, and we got some pictures with it. And he was like, oh my, this is great. But it's for me to have fun and engage with people, A, and B, I get to help and support an entrepreneur who wouldn't know how to have access right off the bat to the NFL, MLS, NBA, anybody else, or even Texas. Now I've got Dive Bar. They're ordering 6 of them, and they're going to get them. They're going to get them all dialed in with artists, and those artists are going to, and then you can get instead of a bucket of beers, you're going to get a 6-pack in this tactical carrier that's designed by local artists. It's perfect. And what did he do? It's a marketing cost to him, and I when all this stuff happened, I told people, I said, you got to shift your brain a little bit. Sunk costs, money taken away, time invested, whatever it is, you can walk away, A, or B, you can look at this as this is now a marketing cost. Now, how can I best present my brand or my company or my vision in the best way I can possibly? And we're showing that with South by. I get to lightly do it with Talking During Movies, and we do like 300 downloads a day. It's nothing big.
Yeah, but it's fun. And I think that's also, there's a snowball there to where at 300, 305, 315. So why don't we talk about a little bit more of you guys' background? I know we did a quick kind of overview, and this is usually how I start the podcast actually. It's like, hey, tell me what you've done, what you do. So why don't we start with you, Jason? Like, tell me a little bit of your background. Give me some fun stories, whatever, however you want to take it.
Sure. So if anyone goes and listens to my podcast and after they hear this, they're going to scratch their head a little bit. So I was a pastoral ministries major in college. They politely asked me to leave. It could be my love of beer, ladies. There's a lot of problems. Gambling. I left. I got a degree in communications. I was the West Coast sales manager for a brewery where I ran an international tattoo competition. So the person who got the largest tattoo of the tattoo I have on my back, we gave him a Harley. A gentleman named Kenny Marvin from Federal Way, Washington won. He got a 58-inch tattoo over his body.
58-inch.
50 filled in, bright red. So
he wanted to make sure he won.
He wanted to make sure, and he brought his tattoo artist with him, who was a little person who was about 4 feet tall with his green spiked hair that had tattooed down his arms, "I love Satan." This is in Whitefish, Montana, and everyone's freaking out. Second place was a very nice man who got his name in the federal penitentiary. His name was Chainsaw. He only had a 27-inch tattoo, and there's no second place. So Kenny walks out, strips down. If you go Black Star Beer tattoo, you Google it, you'll see Kenny as he's stripping down. He's in a red thong, and he's ready to take the thong off to show you that on the buttocks, it's all tattooed. And we're like, Kenny, we're good. Everyone understood. You committed. He looks like a lucky burn victim because it's all bright red. And then out comes Chainsaw. It looks tiny. It's still 27 inches, and it looks tiny. Well, Chainsaw's mad, threatens to kill me. I get a police escort around a little bit because they're like, hey, this guy just came out of prison, so this is probably someone to watch. Did that for a bit. I launched Steel Reserve. I sold the first can of Steel Reserve on the West Coast. Not my proudest moment, but it was, it was a job. I did PR for a bit in the Bay Area, launched some security firms. I was the lead communications on the acquisition of Informix by IBM for over $1 billion. Moved back down to Southern California, started working in fintech. I told the guy who founded this company, it was the most interesting interview. We get done talking and he goes, you know what I want you to do? Go home and fill your sink full of water. Put your fist in and pull it out and see what kind of impression you leave. And then he got it from the table and left. And as I was walking out of the parking lot, my phone rang. I'm like, would you like the job? I'm like, well, with that, sweetheart, I guess. 25th employee, it grew to about 2,800 people. IAC acquired it. And then I helped him launch a couple other companies, built the communications platform for Loan Depot, which is his company now, second largest non-banking lender in the world. Did licensing for some yacht lines, was a partner in the Bisbee Black and Blue, the richest fishing tournament in the world. Messed around, had fun, and then came out here to Austin and worked in fintech again for a little bit, helped launch a couple PR firm and some other things. And
yeah, it sounds like a lot of background in more of the PR side of advertising, some guerrilla marketing, obviously in there. Is that kind of where your passion lays? Is, basically getting people excited about either a brand, yourself, or where does that take you?
I mean, for me, it takes me to a place of, I realized a couple of things in all the stuff that I've done is, one, I always find myself where I'm like, oh, you should be a part of this. You should do this. So I like connecting people. I really enjoy that. I like the crisis of things when bad things do happen. What can you do to fix them? And then the storytelling. It's funny. I always tell people, talk in sound bites, do this. And I train them how to talk. And then they hear me and they're like, you will bump your gums for 10 straight minutes without breathing. I'm like, yeah, but that's me. I'm not the one on camera. You are. So do this. And those things are really fun, but it's also, it's getting to step back and look back and go, oh, this is my network. This is my community. And it's been built with really fun, engaging people that will sit down and tell stories and find ways to not just solve problems, but find ways to engage others and bring them into the community. And that is the best because, people worry about money and getting paid. And yeah, you got to keep the lights on. You got to feed the kids. There's stuff you have to do. But do you have a community? When you look back, the one thing we'll never get back is time, right? No matter how rich you are, you can't get time back. So who are you spending your time with? How are you spending your time? And is it impactful? Right? I mean, and it took me too many years to learn that. So now it's, hey, how do I spend quality time with people? How do I look at my community and grow a business and at the same time be a good dad, at the same time be a good husband and be a good friend? And solving that problem, which is a continuing problem, that's probably my biggest passion because it's fun. And it's fun to kick yourself, and go, wait, I'm doing this wrong, or have someone else tell you, and being able to accept that and go, you know what, you're right. I'm a little too fired up. I'm a little too passionate on this, or I was a little rude on this. Those things, yeah, you gotta work through it.
And I think building a community is a very powerful thing. Not only do, if you want to get a job or you need to do something different or whatever it is, but one of the reasons why I did this podcast, we briefly talked about this earlier before we started recording, was just to build that network and just meet new people that are doing interesting things, right? Yeah. And when you do look back, or not even look back, what we all do is we get in our little corners with our group of people, and that's great. But sometimes, you're head down, you're working, and then you look up and you say, oh, wait, I haven't really talked to anybody new in a while, like really talked to somebody new. Mm-hmm. And one of the things about this podcast is great. You get an hour and a half, you get a 45 minutes with somebody. You get to learn their story and talk to them, and you get to expand that community of people. But that's one of the things that I've been that's kind of a goal of this year, as the sun is in my eyes right now.
It's lighting you up.
Yeah. Isn't that funny? I'm going to have to put a sheet over that. So Bart, give us your background, what you've been doing, and what excites you.
The things that excite me really are experiences between people. I started out being a professional chef. By the time I was 18, I'd opened 4 restaurants in LA by the time I was 22.
Oh, wow.
And got to see...
And he made me cook last night.
So what's your favorite dish?
Jason's a great cook. So if you want to know anything about people who actually cook, the best gift you can give them is to cook for them, because they usually cook for everyone else. So
I love to cook for people. I love to cook for people. So
there's interesting thing about food, right? Is that it's multicultural, and it's the one thing that people don't argue over. If you go to a different restaurant, if you go to an ethnic restaurant or a hybrid restaurant or whatever, it's funny how everyone leaves all that extra baggage at the door if food's involved. And
completely connects us.
Right?
Completely, yeah.
It connects us, and I like cultural heritage things. I like that provenance between things, and just knowing where wines come from, and the earthy background stories to all those things. And food for me it was that gift, and also it was a way that you can put out a product quickly to the market. You didn't have to wait months to change a recipe. And most of the places that I started, I could do whatever menu I wanted. So it was nice. I would just mix it up every single day. And I like that creative part of it. And after a number of years doing that, it's a difficult business, as Jason mentioned, right? In the kitchen.
I've been in the kitchen too.
All the time. And I was a glass blower in college. So, you're around a lot of heat, but heat on a daily basis in a kitchen is just, it'll wear you down.
Having the burns up the wrists.
Yeah. I used to have a tandoori oven. So I had burns all over my arms just from putting the naan in there and stuff.
But. So give me 2 things if you can, and it doesn't have to be just one. Like your favorite dish and maybe like a favorite spice, if you have.
So I grew up in Cape Cod, so most of the favorite dishes for me have something to do with seafood. And favorite dish,
that you'd like to cook, not
that
you like to present to somebody. Like what's something fun?
Something fun for me is I like making lobster pasta for people.
Oh yeah, that sounds awesome.
But it's different than I like old school. Most of the experiences I had growing up were with grandmothers in the neighborhood who were kind enough to show me how to make things. And the part of the East Coast I grew up on, and that area is a lot of Greeks, there's a lot of Italians, a lot of Portuguese. So those grandmothers were instrumental in showing me how to make some great food without anything written down. Just you cook Saturday night in the kitchen with them making gnocchi or whatever. And that was a gift to me. That was a gift to me. The best food in the world is whatever grandmothers make. I hate to say it, but they've done it so many times over and over. And I do believe that good food has some bit of love and magic in it.
And I think that when you only have a limited ingredients, you learn how to make that really, really good, right? Whereas I think, today it's so easy because we can get just about anything all the time. But it's kind of, it can be like the jack of all trades and master of none a little bit with foods, different, right?
Well, food is different too, and it tells you about the person and what their life was like. Like one of the folks that I learned from was an Italian grandmother, and she had lived through World War II, and she taught me how to make recipes with grass. Like literally grass clippings, because that's all that was available at the time. There was no meat, there was no pasta, and she could cook grass and make it the best salad you've ever had in the world. And it was
wow.
So when you're at that level, everything else just looks rosy, right?
Sure.
And
that's amazing.
Those types of experiences, I love those backstories because they're real. They live through this. And at the same time, it's sort of what we're trying to do now is, hey, whatever you're given, if you can turn grass into a great salad, so you can do that with anything in business. Turn it into a great, just you have to look at it differently. Sometimes grass is all you have. Well, at least you have grass, right?
Wow. I wouldn't even begin to know how to even start with that. But I guess, with the right mix, or if you do it for long enough, because nobody likes bad food. So you're going to have to you gotta figure it out.
Well, you're right. The technique's really what you learn.
And I always feel like the pour always all the food starts from the pour and moves up because, it's because they are the ones that are slaving over it for 10 years, moving it up, 20 years, 30 years, making it this really fantastic dish. Jason, what about you? What's your favorite thing to cook?
Pizza.
Really?
I love making pizza. I really do. It's fun. It's hands-on. You get to make it your way. It's just, I love it. I really do. I will sit down with my daughter and we will get the dough. We'll make dough. We'll get it out. And then I'll get the pizza oven sitting in the stone, sitting in there and put it in. It's fun, man. It's fun to eat. I mean, it
brings people always get together over pizza. People love pizza.
Pizza and a nice bottle of red, or a cold beer. And
it's hard to not smile with a pizza.
Yeah,
right.
It really is. So that's my. I have a minor addiction. I mean, but here it's home slice and pine house, and me making it at home. My wife's like, "Why do we spend $30 for this Via 313 pizza? It's amazing, but why don't you just make it more?" And there's some days I'm like, I'm tired. Like we're gonna order pizza, but most of the time, if I say I want pizza, she's like, "Good, go make it." And I'm like, "Oh, just can we order it?" And she's like, "No." And the house is like, "No, you're cooking." I'm like, "All right, perfect."
That's fun. So we kind of sidetracked, which I love the sidetrack. So why don't you give you more about your background and what you've been doing?
So I worked as a chef to put myself through college. So it was really a payment plan for me at the time. And I could work nights, which was great if you're going to college during the daytime. So it worked out for a while. I had an interest in computer graphics early and went and took some courses at UCLA and ended up building a portfolio. And I showed it to some folks in an aerospace company and they hired me. And I got into building experiences inside of aircraft from being a chef, which seems kind of weird, but the reality is that if you learn techniques and recipes when you go into coding and software, it's very similar because code's broken down very much like a recipe is. You learn how parts come together. You learn when they have to come together and things like that. So it was natural for me, even though other people would think that's maybe a little odd. You go from being a chef to, working in cockpits and supersonic planes, but it's not. And it's just your view of how you put things together in life. And so I've been working in tech for quite a long time, building different experiences, whether they're e-commerce or virtual.
Can you tell them the Puerto Rico story, please? Now you kind of have to because I just put it on.
Oh.
Don't use the name of the company. Just
okay. So speaking of experiences, I worked for this very large semiconductor company in California, which will go unnamed. But they have a good brand, big brand, and they have.
I worked for one as well, so we might know who this is.
So
probably
there's only really two. But.
Yep. So they had factories in Puerto Rico at the time, and those factories had to have chips sent to them to create systems, computer systems, and there was always a supply delay going into them. So. The only way we could get the chips in there was to actually send them through as regular baggage at the regular check-in point when you're there with your suitcase and you're going on vacation. But we had boxes and boxes of these unmarked chips that we would push through as regular baggage. And I used to have about 30,000 in hundreds on me at all times. And we would move these chips through the regular baggage lines so that we could keep the factories running. And it was quite a interesting operation because at the time, they still try to do it today. Most Pentium chips or any core chips right now have a lot of gold in them. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And that gold they'll steal the chips and melt the gold down, right? It's really for the gold. They don't care about the chips, which is sort of strange. But so we would have to move all these chips under the radar into the factories. And we did this for years, keeping the factories going. But it was very spy novel-y. And I thought that was, again, the experiences, I loved it. So I would always put my hand up to go and hijack.
And that was more because people were stealing it, or was that just the easiest way to get it through?
At the time, it was the easiest way to get them. Well, it wasn't really easy. It was the only way you could get them through within 24 hours.
Oh, because of time, yeah.
Well, if you ship things freight, it would go through different processes. It was better to overpay and pretend you had these massive boxes as your regular luggage. Yeah. Coming down, little thing next to all the bags, and you're just taking them off and putting them into an unmarked van and driving away and hoping nobody watches what you're doing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's intense. You don't think of the computer semiconductor world as being like this intense environment. I was in the refurbished market of computers for a long time as well. So yeah, there is definitely values when you break down your components of gold and there's copper and aluminum. There's a lot of different valuable components, but yeah, nothing compared to what the semiconductor was actually worth back then, or even now for most times.
They have vaults of gold that people don't realize. We'd watch the gold come in, and it was heavily, structured in how you brought the gold in, how it was monitored and things like that. But these companies actually have quite a bit of real gold on hand, and it's high grade gold too, because it's for electronics. So it's much better than 12 karat.
So, so after you worked for the semiconductors, how did you, it sounds like you've had a lot of experiences. How did you move into what you're doing now?
So what's interesting is I'm a big believer in going back to school in the capacity of go learn something you're interested in. In the case of UCLA, I didn't go for a degree. I picked the courses that I needed to know, 3D modeling, 3D computations, things like that. And then I would just go and build something with what I knew. And lots of times that's all you needed to do. It's how I got into cooking too. I was very young. I started working underage in Massachusetts in a kitchen because at the time that was not really a big deal. They didn't really care as long as you showed up to work every day. And I noticed that if you walk in and just show somebody what you know, they engage immediately. You don't have to have all degrees. You don't have to have taken all the courses. I tried to get out of as many accounting courses as I could as prerequisites for things because I had interest in other areas. So I would just pick courses from different universities and take them and build my own background portfolio on things. And it's whether it's e-commerce or AI or anything like that, especially in today's day and age, there's no reason you can't go on to Coursera or
YouTube.
Exactly.
I mean, I've learned so much just from YouTube. And I love this approach because a lot of people, to me, school is very interesting right now. If you're not going to be an engineer or go into the medical field or a lawyer or something like that, I'm not so sure it makes a lot of sense for a lot of people. If you're just going for a general degree, you could, there is some benefits as well, but to me, I'm thinking it's very expensive. You return that investment might not pay off, but you can go on YouTube or buy a masterclass or go even to some of these community colleges and learn just a couple courses. You don't have to go for the full 4-year deal.
And to your point real quick on that, we were talking and about knowledge and deep media. And one of the interesting things you bring up for work, right, is we have an aging population that has so much knowledge in their head, but it's not on paper. So imagine leveraging not only just technology, but now brain power, right? So you take a phone and you hold it up to an engine and it says, tighten here, do this, IIoT, industrial Internet of Things, right? But someone chimes in and says, hey, don't turn that screw all the way tight. I know the manual says turn it all the way tight. Don't, because it's going to break this here, here, and here as soon as you hit this. Well, that's not in the manual. So if you just read the book, you don't know. But the engagement with media and the idea that now media on a blockchain and allowing people to engage and interact and bring quality to it, now all of a sudden it changes that to where I might, if I don't know it's you and I don't like you, but I get great information, don't turn that all the way, it's going to break. Personalities are removed, pure information is shared, and problems are solved and circumvented in key ways because you're not having to relearn stuff after the manual. There's there's college, which is the manual, and there's after the manual. You go to college, you take a PR class. I'll tell you what, now come talk to me because it's different, right? Well, you want to send an email like this? I'm like, no, you don't. You want to engage. You want to be a person. Well, you want to talk to the media like this? No, you want to, and you break things down. Well, the same goes with this. And so deep media will bring it back a little bit, but you come back in and all of a sudden now you have an access point, not just to technology, not just to video, audio, AI, VR. You have an access to brain power that before you didn't, because that person may be in India and you may be here.
Right.
You know, those doctors that for coronavirus that are sharing information, how are you sharing information? Is it an XML? Are you parsing it and then rebuilding it with comments on it? Geez, that's fun. That's horrible. Now imagine taking the same videos, the same information, and frame by frame being able to step in and comment, you know, going to, no
in real time.
In real time. You know, I would have loved to have commented to our the head of the health for Austin when he goes, the best way to beat the coronavirus is to get better. Thank you. Good job. We're gonna work on that for you, sir. I got some other ideas.
Yeah. Let's clean that up a little bit.
It's a virus, not a disease. Let's clean that up a little bit. But you take, that's a funny nuanced thing of what's happening now, but you take a real thing of an engine or an air conditioner or a company or even watching a video and being able to engage. Oh, there goes that car it drove by. Do you know what tires those are? Why are you watching? Also, with all of this, you get one thing that doesn't exist right now. What we're showing is you can go from, I know you go from A to B. I know you go from here to here. Great. But I don't know the intent of why you went from A to B. This technology and this level of engagement, being able to break down a video and see it, now I see intent of why you're watching. Are you watching because you like cars? Is that your favorite driver? Is that your favorite course? Do you just like that car? What is it? Well, now through comments and everything else, now I know. Now I have intent of why you're there. Now the power of understanding intent, of going from A to B and understanding why they went from A to B. Now look at advertising. Now advertising isn't spam and a pop-up. Now it's direct engagement with someone because you know what they want. You know what they like. Now sharing knowledge isn't just, I'm blowhard and I'm going to tell you how great these tires are. Now I can tell you I got these tires. There's only one place in Orange County, California that has them. It's right over here. Oh, and by the way, the taco shop around the corner, it's about 2 hours to put them on, is amazing. You got to get this. Well, can that taco shop afford to advertise on YouTube or anywhere else? No, they live off word of mouth. Well, now word of mouth is engaged into the internet, and the internet engagement is part of a video. And would that company think about advertising around tires that are at a racetrack that somebody's favorite driver is at? No, because they don't connect those dots. But we see it as that's part of a conversation. So now you're taking everything with intent and you're making it part of a conversation, not a sales pitch, not an advertisement. Now it's just real-time engagement with real-time people and understanding that there's other businesses and communities around there. Hey, where do I grab a cup of coffee? Oh, you're going to want to get it here. This is really, it's my favorite. Now that might not be your favorite, but you're like, hey, you know what? I didn't like that. They over roast the beans, but however, I did find this place over here. Okay, well, in one frame of a video showing a tire, you can have all of that communication and engagement, and all you've done is shared your information. And in doing that, you've immensely helped out business upon business upon business.
And I think we've been heading in that direction for a while now, you know, whereas the TV and radio advertising is just full out to demographics is really rough, right? Mm-hmm. You know, we were watching TV the other day, which we don't even have cable. We haven't had for a long time. And I was like, oh my God, this is really, really bad commercials. I can't even take it.
Yeah.
And, you know, and the Facebooks of the world, which get a lot of flack, but you know, your ads are usually pretty decent because at least they know more about you, but they're not interactive. And I think what you're saying is taking it one step further and have some type of interaction points there. That way that you know, it's not so much of an ad, but it's experience.
It's an experience and knowledge. Is what's the best advertisement? If you, and Bart uses them, I'm going to steal your tagline here, but you go and buy a brand new Audi. And I come and I see it. I'm like, man, this is a great car. You're like, it's not a great car. It's the best car. And you tell me every reason why. So I go buy an Audi. Does the salesperson call you? Thanks for the referral. This is amazing, and cut you a check? No, because they think they're doing the job when they're not. Knowledge is your advertising. That should be your knowledge. Shared knowledge and shared experience should be your advertising. Don't throw things at me and see what sticks. Understand me. And who understands me? My friends do. My community does. The people around me do. So being able to create engagement that shares knowledge and experience gives a finite point for advertisers they've never had before, ever. And they won't have again because once you go down that road, people are going to love it. And you can't go back to...
It's like me going back to, it's me going back to the TV. I can't do it.
Can't do it.
I literally just can't. I have to hit mute or turn it off or whatever.
Yeah, I can't do it. But I mean, advertisers want all of this stuff. The hard part is, in everything, is change. So you've got everyone excited and they want to do all these things. Now go to Ogilvy and Mather and say, hey, your print ads are garbage and they're done. Go to the New York. I mean, how long have we been on digital and papers are like, I just can't figure out how to make any money? Well, I can tell you why. You're not sharing knowledge or engagement, right?
And then now you're like, oh, you get to view our website 3 times before you have to pay. I'm like, that is the worst. Who come up with that?
Yeah. What person was the counting over there? Well, 3 is the real hook. Why is any of it the hook? Why isn't it more about the knowledge and the appreciation and understanding of not only the people, of where they're at and who they are, but of the companies that engage with them and why? I mean, your best success stories, Tom's Shoes, right? How much money was spent on advertising versus word of mouth because of a great story?
Well, Tesla, they don't even spend money on advertising. It's all PR. It's just word of mouth stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. You've got great people. You've got great insights. And is it perfect? No, but people aren't perfect. That's the other thing people have to get past. We're not perfect. The ad's not going to be perfect. Things aren't going to be perfect. Knowledge is not perfect. You learn new things all the time, but given that platform, it is far superior than anything else that's currently available.
And even, let's say we have this technology, it works, we understand it. It sounds like the investment almost starts going back to people because you're going to need the interaction to work through. You're going to need the knowledge. It's kind of like social media. A lot of times I told people, like, you want to be good at social media, don't worry about, any of the softwares. You just got to invest in people a little bit to tell your story.
Absolutely. And especially for AI and technologies like blockchain, they're built around a continuous feed of new information. So where people are being sort of getting misinformation about being disenfranchised from their jobs or AI taking away, at least currently right now, that's not where it is. It's actually the opposite. If you're, in the case of the media side, if you're building algorithms, you have to feed those algorithms with a continual amount of information. And to Jason's point, the best information is the information that comes out of people. So part of doing Deep Media Day was to explain to people, you actually have a much more active role. And it's not a role where somebody is passive. You're required for this AI to be better at what it does. They talk about biases in algorithms. Well, the biases exist in a lot of ways, but the algorithms that are continually updated and perfected come from a new source of information constantly going through the system. And Facebook, LinkedIn, companies like that know that, which is why they sit on top of social media, because that's a continuous source of information. But if you look at the way commerce is developing and you want something that's more relevant to what you're watching on TV, so you don't really need an ad anymore. If you're watching something that has a really scenic backdrop, you may want to know, well, what is that? What am I looking at that's really interesting in this movie? And if you could say, hey, we did early development for Alexa. If you could say, hey, where is that location in the movie I'm watching? And she comes back and says, it's Thailand. And you say, well, when is the best time to visit Thailand? Right?
That versus that's really cool.
See the tree versus the Viagra thing coming up for the 10th time, right?
Right, and then send me an alert for when the price gets below $700 for the round trip flight,
or just even better, make it community based. Because again, we're not saying you're disconnected from this source; we're saying you're part of it. So, what happens if you could say, "Hey, is there another group that I'd like to join who's going there during this time of year? So I'm not traveling alone." All those things are possible now, but people have to look at the technologies, and part of doing Deep Media Days is to just put them out there and have other people come up with their own ideas for, well, we can do this in this industry, or we can do it on this platform. Because that really, I truly believe that most of the money is on the table. And advertising digitally has been kind of a dead horse for a long time that they're still kicking. And that happens because there's people who make money in this side of the business. They're still making money, but they don't really have to return great ROI. They don't have to return great experiences.
And the ROI is completely different from what it used to be. Trust me, I spent a lot, with me and my clients, we spent a lot of money on Facebook, Instagram ads, Google ads. I wish we would go back in the days where, the ROI was so easy, because it's not that way anymore.
It's not. And we get more and more diverse. And, my boss, John Lynch, who's founded the company in SoCal, he says it best. It's not about customer loyalty anymore. It's about loyalty to customers. And he's absolutely right. What's your loyalty to me? Because now I have a plethora of options. ROI is lower on ads. There's a gazillion of them coming out. I mean, in all the technology and all the great things we have, they're like, but how do I take this paper ad and put it on digital and get you to like it? And well, that's too cutting edge. But outside of the advertising, where's your loyalty to that person who's going to spend your money? I understand you want my loyalty as a customer, but where's your loyalty to me? And those fundamental shifts, right? When those really start to take hold, when small, medium, and even large businesses realize that, oh yeah, I need to be loyal to them, and I need to understand them, and I need to figure out where their knowledge is and what's going on. I mean, I bought a set of knives on Groupon. Thanks. I get updates every day about more knives on sale. They're not throwaways. They're not plastic knives. They're knives that are going to last me for years. Fix your algorithm so that, hey, Jason, I saw you about this. Do you have cookware? Like, what are the extensions outside of that? And it's the perfect example of where advertising is. And they're like, yeah, but we're digital. Yeah, but you're sending me the same crap that I already bought. There's no loyalty to me. There's no understanding of me. There's no presence of you. We can't live in two worlds. We can't live in a physical world where we talk about community. We love community. We love people. We want to engage. We want to have fun. Man, it's great. And then the digital world is blah, 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 blah. Pop-ups everywhere, throw ads at you. Hey, you want this transition? You want to go digital? You want VR? You want all these things? Be loyal to your customers. Let them share their knowledge. Let them share their information. And don't be afraid to hear something that you don't like. It's going to be okay. It's going to be A-okay.
Right. Well, it might improve your product or your service. So timeline. What are you guys thinking here? And I know that this will be a rollout in different phases, kind of like autonomous cars, right? It's not just gonna be one day you're driving and then the next day it's autonomous car. It's gonna, adapt to cruise control. It'll park itself. It goes out in phases. But what's kind of a timeline you guys this new kind of future of advertising and future of interactions?
Well, I mean, Bart's already tested it. So he took a multi-channel network on YouTube and literally built this out already to show that it works. And their numbers shot through the roof.
Yeah, for sure. So I think that it is, to Jason's point, it is already happening, but you're still at the tip of the iceberg. And I think for people looking to find positions in this area, there's all sorts of opportunities for program and project managers and people like that. You don't have to be a closure engineer or, JavaScript developer. You don't have to just have those skill sets. There are quite a few areas that require this new style of management. How do you build agile AI products? So there's quite a bit of opportunity there, and you're not seeing that in the marketplace. So people can find a home. And I've always followed trends because I grew up in a family that was very trend focused. My dad was a guy on Wall Street, and I watched him follow trends and how to predict trends. And this is one of them that we introduce to a lot of people. Jump in, get in now, because you may think that you have no place in this, and that's simply not true. There's lots of places, and there's lots of really cool positions that you can create on your own that people don't think exist. And I can tell you they absolutely exist, but you have to kind of get in first to say, I do X, Y, and Z. And if it doesn't look like something that shows up on Indeed or, a job board, don't worry about it. Those things are still out there, but you have to find a way to connect dots with people, and they'll help you do it.
And I think on the non-technology side, and this is something that's always been worth money for the course of history of all time of humans, is storytelling. I think a lot of these people that are out there, if you're going to create these experiences, you're going to have to be able to tell the story of your brand or your service in in a interesting way. And I think that there's still going to be some of that when somebody has some feedback, is to interact with that person with the feedback.
I think it's actually more important than where, general storytelling goes, because the people who are going to bring these products to market, and we're again focused on applied, so to market, are people who can influence others who have no direct authority over them, whether it's freelancers or even in your own business. So, to your point about story, to influence a wide variety of people around the world to come together on a product, that's a skill set that is going to be amplified, I think. I think there's going to be more positions that require that. And that's a hard job. It's a very hard job. But I think it's really good jobs.
Yeah, I agree. And you talked about trends.
In some of the most demand jobs, if you look online right now, too.
Oh, I mean, I completely agree. It's very difficult to do. So you talk about trends. The market's going crazy. Any stock picks that you have out there that you want to share that you like?
I think there'll be a double bounce. As we talked about it earlier today, I would say, wait for the second bounce and see where things are. I think a lot of what's going on today is reactive. It's not great news, but at the same time, if you look at the numbers over the course of other types of situations, we will rebound from it, and it will happen. I don't think anybody necessarily knows, but most of the time, markets overcorrect, and Amazon is still going to be around.
Yeah, I mean, Amazon's, to me, there's no reason for Amazon to be down other than the fact that the market's...
in fact, Amazon should probably be up. I was telling Bart, I don't, in this kind of self-quarantine or don't, no large groups. Hey, Uber, you need some good PR. Why aren't you just say, hey, Uber Eats, no delivery charge. Get people used to it. Get people addicted. Then you can charge them, right? I mean, use the gym model. Netflix is perfect at that. They're just low enough on the credit card where you don't notice it.
You forget about it.
You forget about it. But all these delivery companies, all these people that can engage. Hey, you should do that. In investing, I would say this: look at any tragedy where people are required to stay in close proximity to, their closest friends or community. Right? What do you get out of that? Babies. You want to.
That is completely true. Fact, yeah, that is completely true.
You're going to see Corona. They're going to get the cool name Corona Kids, and you're going to have this in 9 months from now, after this 8 or 12 weeks, whatever we have to go through. 9 months from that, there's going to be a ton of kids. It's just, it's there, right? I mean, and it's overreaction. Like, is the world ending? Are people turning into zombies? What's going on? We should have sex. And then there's other people like, I got nothing else to do. And I'm not watching the news. It's just depressing.
Yeah.
So,
and you're drinking Coronas because it's coronavirus.
So there's that opportunity. That was my neighbor said the other day, goes, when does Corona step in and say, and I charge you for using my name and you for using my name? Because there's got to be someone going, it's called COVID-19. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
Please.
I think you told me Bill Gates owns coronavirus, doesn't he?
The foundation, when you create cures for viruses, well, not for viruses, for sicknesses, whatever, you first buy the thing. And I believe the foundation owns that. They've been trying to create a cure for it. The
coronavirus has been around for a long time.
Yeah.
Just this strand hasn't been seen before, so nobody really has immunity.
Exactly.
That's the idea.
And that's I made the joke earlier. Listen, don't invest in palm readers. Their stocks, they're diving, right? Don't do that. Get after the baby making stuff. You're going to be fine. But also, hey, folks, it's still not that bad. It's 3 years ago was a high from the 3 years previous. So they're like, it's down to 2017 numbers. Yeah, well, might want to look at 2014 numbers. Oh, now you get down to 2014 numbers. Yeah, we'll raise a flag, but it's still pretty good.
Yeah, that's the thing. When you look at your even just your own personal figures, if you draw the timeline out far enough, it still looks good. It just doesn't look good when you look at it like where you were 2.5 weeks ago.
Yeah, it doesn't. And that's okay. It's no fun.
It is okay. It's part of it. It can't always be good the whole time. So we're getting kind of close to the time here. And this has been a little different with multiple guests I've been in. It's very enjoyable on my side. I feel like I don't even have to do anything. You guys just do anything. So what I usually kind of go through kind of a couple personal questions at the end. Sure. I know we're in a time, so I might just jump to the last one. And so this will be a little unique, but we'll do one at a time. So Bart, like how would you like to be remembered?
I would like to be remembered in helping people, I would say, share and connect over experiences, whether that's food or digital. I truly believe that when you share an experience with somebody else, your life changes. So
I love it. And same question for you.
I always want to be remembered as a good dad. I'm very blessed. I've got a wonderful kid. She's amazing. You're not talking about my kid. And I tell her there's only one word you're not allowed to say, and that's can't. I want the world to be yours. I really do. And if there's anything, man, I just want to be a good dad so she can be a good parent, so she can be better than me. If she's better than me and someone calls me a good dad, I've won.
I love it. Both great answers. Well, guys, it was a super pleasure to have you on the podcast. I really appreciate it. And everyone on Deep Media Day, Dive Bar Lounge there at March 17th, St. Patty's Day.
St. Patty's Day. It's going to be fun. It'll be closed to the public. VIPs will be in to be able to come in and engage on a much more private level, which will be great. And then that evening, 7:00, we're going to have a surprise, get a A-list musician come in and perform, and then that A-list musician again will go and perform at Kung Fu, I believe, at 9 or 9:30 as well.
And all the sessions will be online.
So I was going to ask though, what would be the best website to find the sessions?
DeepMediaDay.com.
We'll go there. We're working with different distribution groups to get that out globally. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Awesome. All right, guys. Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.